Part 49. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 481. The most interesting thing is Xiaoqing 9527's attitude. With the strength she showed, she actually didn't need to let Xiaoming see the scene where she appeared out of thin air. She didn't need to let Xiaoming hear the first sentence she said to Zhao Zhizhu. There was even no need to look at Xiaoming. She could directly exclude Xiaoming's circle, making Xiaoming suspicious, and even unable to find out who did it. So her behavior was basically intentional. The meaning might be, Zhao Zhizhu is under my protection, you better be smart. This is similar to some of Heng Cheo's previous practices to protect Zhang Xiaoming. Xiaoming didn't have any bad intentions or plans for Zhao Zhizhu, so he wouldn't be scared at this time. Xiaoming couldn't watch the excitement, so he decided to hide in the game temporarily. Although it was not yet the time for the game to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, we could go into the secret realm to play. Different players have different ways to explore the secret realm. The most ordinary players have no power to choose, so they can only try their luck randomly and take whatever they encounter. I won't mention these people. Players with more powerful abilities can generally get the title of Level 1 Secret Realm Explorer, so they have the right to explore designated secret realms 3 times a day. At this time, normal expert players will focus their energy on one or a few secret realms. In this way, the characters in their secret realms grow the fastest, it is easier to achieve results, and they can get rewards earlier. Only when they encounter bottlenecks will they temporarily suspend the exploration of this secret realm and turn to other secret realms to look for opportunities. Generally, in secret realms with high martial arts and high magic, players really can't mix to a certain extent. Secret realms are different from the main game. As long as you accumulate level skills, you can increase your combat power. This kind of thing generally doesn't work in secret realms. In terms of supernatural abilities, secret realms will guide players a little and give players' characters some similar energy to use. But for subsequent growth, players must rely on their own efforts to truly master it in reality. Is this more pitfall than the reincarnation space? In the reincarnation space, the reincarnationists can at least exchange for strengthening items to improve their strength. But there is no such exchange in the secret realm. What should the players do? Is it so easy to develop superpowers by yourself? Except for Xiaoming, who is cheating, 99% of the players can't do it. Of course, the setting of the secret realm is to inspire players to gain a little supernatural energy, and then look forward to the players being recruited by the reincarnation space. The original plan was that the reincarnation space would take over the task of improving combat effectiveness. After the player becomes a reincarnationist and becomes stronger, he will return to the secret realm to obtain information about the relevant world. Then he will take advantage of the reincarnation space and further improve his combat effectiveness. Then continue this process. It can be said that this is a relatively effective approach. Of course, the main reason is that the Magic Planet game does not have the ability of the reincarnation space. If it can directly strengthen the player, there will be no need for the reincarnation space. So the new Han Kingdom had to develop the game into what it is now. Xiaoming will naturally not follow the routines of these vulgar people. In fact, he is just lazy. When Xiaoming's strength reached a certain level, Xiaoming rarely designated a secret realm to play, and always relied on luck randomly. This time he randomly went to a familiar secret realm, Hunter x Hunter. The last time I left this secret realm, it felt like a long time ago. In fact, it was 10 years ago. The 10 years in the Xianjian world always gave Xiaoming a feeling of vicissitudes. Xiaoming's role in this secret realm is an orphan named Miu Miu in a remote village. Because of his own abilities, he was recruited by Wu Tong as an apprentice butler of the Zaldik family, and is now on a mission. The mission content is to accompany Master Killua to participate in the Hunter exam. Try to protect the safety of the Master. Before leaving last time, Xiaoming planted telekinesis seeds for the 4 protagonists, Gon, Killua, Leorio, and Kurapika. It's finally time to harvest. After such a long time, the furthest progress of the Hunter's secret realm has been pushed to the plot of Greed Island by expert players. If Xiaoming knew the plot, he would be very surprised. It must be a high-level reincarnation. Otherwise, how could a normal player pass the plot in Yukixen City? It is normal for all to die at the hands of the Phantom Troop. Of course, the guy who promoted the plot was kind-hearted. He didn't want the players to be stuck in Yukixen City. He gave them a choice to skip. As for the fact that Xiaoming entered Greed Island when he randomly went to the Hunter's secret realm for the first time, this was not a bug. At that time, Xiaoji was still fishing on Whale Island. He just randomly landed on Greed Island. He didn't start that plot. Faced with many progress options, Xiaoming still chose to continue his previous progress. It's not easy to be a teacher, so he should at least check the results, right? And although the progress has been advanced a lot, Xiaoming doesn't plan to skip it. You should know that every time a player chooses to skip a progress, he will lose part of the influence on this secret realm. It is equivalent to a punishment given by the secret realm. If you choose a progress with a too large time span, then the efforts made by the player before may be completely diluted. For example, if Xiaoming chooses the progress of Greed Island now, then the 4 protagonists will not learn telekinesis from him. Instead, they rely on the later plot or the help of other players. At best, Xiaoming's role is to inform some information and gain a little favorability. What's more, the 4 protagonists may have forgotten Xiaoming. So many players are exploring the same secret realm. When everyone gathers together, will there be plot bugs and lead to contradictions? Worrying about this is purely groundless. You must know that this is a game, not the real world. There is a game system behind it to take a general view of the overall situation. The system is measured in this regard. In principle, each player is actually exploring a parallel world. There are of course no other players in Xiaoming's world. There is no Xiaoming in other people's worlds. The system puts the different plot lines of the players together, not only to increase the fun, but also to save resources. But there is no need to gather all the players in the same secret realm, right? The system will identify them one by one and gather the plot lines with no contradictions or insignificant contradictions together. And there will be some tips for the players. Just let everyone know the situation. Xiaoming encountered this situation when he entered the Hunter's secret realm this time. When Xiaoming arrived, the 50-hour penalty time was over. The 4 protagonists all opened the seeds of telekinesis. Prepare to enter the next stage. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 482. I thought he was a bronze player, but he turned out to be a king. This is what Ilmi was thinking while he was in a tough battle. The wood that was fighting him has now disappeared. There are countless mind beasts around. I want to cross the Yellow River, but the river is blocked by ice. I want to climb the Taihang Mountains, but the mountains are covered with snow. This guy, who is handsome regardless of gender, finally realized how difficult it is to travel. Ilmi couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Why bother? Why fight with such a perverted guy? Let's turn back the time a little bit. On the Jianjing Tower, Killua and others have learned mind power, and their own strength has skyrocketed, and the subsequent levels have become very simple. The 5 people easily came to the bottom of the tower and completed this exam. Of course, because they were punished for 50 hours, they arrived relatively late. As soon as they arrived at the bottom of the tower, the mind power of Killua and the other 4 was seen by several people with a heart. From nothing to something in a few days, everyone was shocked. Hisoka, Illumi, the president of the Hunter Association, and all the masters, everyone had their own thoughts in mind. Next, in the 4th exam, The candidates drew lots to decide their hunting targets. Then dozens of candidates entered the lushly forested Jingbei Island one by one. This island is not very big, but with dozens of people scattered in it, the population density is still quite low. There is enough room to move around. The game has been open for nearly a month. More and more players can reach this progress. After all, at this time, players do not need to master telekinesis. Ordinary players are also qualified to mix with the ability of the character. It is not yet 8 o'clock now, and the players who get up early can only play the secret realm, resulting in a situation where there are more players in the secret realm. Including Xiaoming, there are a total of 7 players, and they are in a state of hunting each other. The system is really a bad taste. Xiaoming was hunting just an ordinary player. Within 30 minutes of going to the island, Xiaoming grabbed the opponent's number plate worth 3 points. Counting the 3 points for keeping his own number plate. In this way, Xiaoming has obtained 6 points and is eligible to enter the finals. If he can't get the number plate of this prey, then Xiaoming will have to hunt the number plates of 3 unrelated candidates. Because the number plates of non-target candidates are only worth 1 point. But this is not difficult. After completing the task, Xiaoming wanted to see Master Killua as soon as possible. Although this task is no longer important, Xiaoming admires Killua, Xiaoja, and the others. If there is a chance to help, he is willing to help. However, the Jitaraku with nails all over his body suddenly appeared in front of Xiaoming. "Are you the trainee butler of the Zaldik family recruited by Wutong?" he asked while making a strange coughing sound. Xiaoming didn't know that he was actually Killua's elder brother and one of the masters of the wood. This powerful and somewhat perverted guy suddenly appeared in front of him, and Xiaoming immediately raised his vigilance. "It's none of your business. Don't you think you're meddling too much?" The other party was not polite, and Xiaoming's tone would not be polite either. Because at this time, Xiaoming had instinctively felt that a fight between him and this guy was inevitable. You want to use rudeness to cover up the truth, it's too naive. Didn't Wutong teach you to respect your master? While speaking, Jitaraku pulled out the nails on his face and body, showing his true figure and handsome face. As soon as he saw this face, Xiaoming certainly recognized it. Wutong had shown Xiaoming the photos of important figures in the Zaldik family. This is basic knowledge as a butler. It turns out to be Master Ilmi, the trainee butler. Miu Miu greets you, Xiaoming answered respectfully, but he did not lower his vigilance in the slightest. You were sent by Wutong to protect Killua, right? Seeing Xiaoming nod, he continued to ask, did you teach Killua and the others their telekinesis? Xiaoming thought about it and it seemed that there was no need to hide this matter. He nodded again. In an instant, a strong murderous aura spread out, startling countless insects, snakes, rats and birds in the woods. It also alarmed all the telekinetic users on the island, as well as many people with keen senses. The weak among them were silent, while the strong ones rushed here. With such abilities, how could you be just an orphan in the countryside? Tell me. What is your intention to infiltrate the Zaldik family? What is your intention to get close to my brother? Otherwise I will kill you now, immediately. Right now. At this time, the originally paralyzed Illumi showed a furious look. His whole body was shrouded in a huge murderous aura, and his long black hair flew up to the sky. It was like the arrival of a demon god. This strength almost caught up with the ring wraiths. Hunter's secret realm is the home of telekinesis, and telekinetic users here are stronger. At this time, language has no effect. We have to fight first. Xiaoming thought he might not be able to withstand the attack of the furious Ilmi. The first thing to do is to keep a distance. Xiaoming's telekinesis ability is very strong, but it is strong in the total amount. Just the character of Mutio plus Xiaoming's total telekinesis is not much less than Ilmi. Counting the supplement of source energy, even the president of the Hunter Association is not as good as him. Ilmi is not a perceptive Nen user, and Xiaoming is surprisingly good at hiding his own strength, so Ilmi did not feel Xiaoming's strong Nen reserves. Otherwise, there might be a misunderstanding. Xiaoming has energy but no skills, and he is very biased in this aspect. The physical fitness of the character Miu Miu is only around level 3, and Xiaoming's training in strengthening Nen is obviously insufficient. Most of the time, he is playing with Nen beasts. Therefore, he is more proficient in the materialization and operation systems, and neglects to study other aspects. Besides, Xiaoming does not know the orthodox training method of Nen ability, he just knows a little bit and plays around. This has caused serious bias. Low melee ability is Xiaoming's biggest weakness. Although he also knows a little kung fu, fighting skills, and Naga swordsmanship. However, Xiaoming's melee level is nothing in front of a combat genius like Ilmi. A strong intuition tells him that if the main body goes up, he will definitely die. If he really went head-on, his character would probably die in less than a minute. And this was a virtual secret realm, so it was impossible for Zhang Zhong to come out to help. He could only rely on himself. Ilmi felt a flash in front of his eyes. What? More than 100 pieces of wood appeared in front of him, which were the shadow clones released by Xiaoming. In just this moment of distraction, he could no longer find the real body of the wood. Xiaoming hid himself with an invisible uniform. The effect of the invisible uniform was better than that of the absolute. In the secret realm where the ability of mind was increased, the effect was even better. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 483. Compared to ordinary ring wraiths of the same B level, Ilmi is more dangerous. They are only compared in terms of their combat power when they are on horseback, not when they are riding on a dragon and firing at full power. Xiaoming actually doesn't know. Ilmi's attack power far exceeds that of the ring wraiths, reaching the level of level 6. Moreover, Ilmi's nails and needles can be scattered, which means that he has a large-scale attack skill and is not afraid of group battles. Dozens of nails infused with telekinesis were shot out, and the same number of shadow clones were killed instantly. Xiaoming only created more than 100 clones in total. If he continues like this, he will be exhausted in a few rounds. In order to disperse Ilmi's attack power, Xiaoming used throwing beans into soldiers. How many dead branches and leaves must have accumulated on the ground in the forest, and there are even many dead branches hanging on the branches and leaves of the trees. Xiaoming threw out a bean-turned soldier, and nearly 1,000 puppets of level 0-2 stood up. In order to ensure his own safety, Xiaoming overexerted himself. This is almost the limit of Xiaoming's one-time use. His mana is almost emptied and he has to use source energy to replenish it. And there are still a lot of branches on the ground that have not been used. In fact, Ilmi is just trying to scare the new trainee housekeeper and wants to see his true strength. He really doesn't mean to fight him to death. It's just that his telekinesis is too strong, which makes it difficult for Xiaoming to judge his true intentions by observing his life energy. Because Xiaoming's observation method is also telekinesis, which uses the technique of condensation. In front of Ilmi's stronger and more condensed telekinesis, Xiaoming's observation is naturally interfered. He really thinks that Ilmi wants to be himself. Otherwise, Xiaoming would not use this Legion-level ability during the competition. Isn't this bullying? Seeing Miu Miu showing such a method, Ilmi was a little dumbfounded. He can indeed scatter nails on a large scale, but that kind of attack consumes a lot of telekinesis. It's worth using it to attack those level 3 shadow clones. It seems a bit wasteful to fight these puppets. Besides, I don't have so many nails and needles on me. Ilmi is not a street vendor. But now the shadow clones are hiding in the protection of the puppets, and then everyone rushes towards Ilmi. If you don't hit the puppets, you can't hit the shadow clones. This makes Ilmi very embarrassed. He has to use his physical advantage and jump to a high place to avoid. Ilmi actually has a strategic level ability, which can use the needle to control many people at the same time to fight for him to death. If it is in a crowded place now, it's just right to use one move to fight Xiao Ming. Unfortunately, there are not many people here now. Except for Hisoka, the people watching the excitement around are all examiners of the Hunter Association. Even the President Netero came to watch the battle. The President and the Zaldik family are old friends. Others may not know, but Ilmi knows very well how powerful this President is. Under his nose, he controls the people of the Hunter Association. Is he too old? So he had no choice but to fight from a high place with his body skills. There were not many dead branches and leaves in the forest, and there were few places to stand, so the number of puppets was much less. So Xiao Ming ordered a few level 2 puppets and shadow clones to jump up the trees and surround Ilmi with the puppets in the high places. The puppets below picked up stones on the ground and threw them to attack, and it would not be good to be hit. Even so, Ilmi finally had some space to move around. However, once he began to focus on dodging, his attack efficiency also decreased. Moreover, there were many places to hide in the high places, and Ilmi could not eliminate the shadow clones on a large scale. If you defend for a long time, you will lose. If you are not careful, the 2 shadow clones will explode directly not far from Ilmi. This shows another difference between Ilmi and the ring wraiths. His body is not strong enough. He does not have the immortal body of the ring wraiths. Moreover, he is also a manipulator of the Nin ability, and his ability of the reinforcement system is very weak. The degree of physical enhancement is also limited. His defense is much weaker than that of the ring wraiths. He vomited a small mouthful of blood after only 2 shadow clones exploded. In a fight with the ring wraiths, Xiao Ming can use a large army to hold the ring wraiths back and consume their energy. Now, if he is held back by Xiao Ming, he will probably be exhausted to death. He can't resist the continuous explosion of shadow clones. Ilmi made a prompt decision, chose a direction, and began to break out frantically. He planned to rush out even if he was injured. Why did he choose this direction? Xiao Ming understood it at a glance with a circle. That was the direction where Hisoka was watching the battle. They are good friends. When Hisoka saw Ilmi's actions, he knew what he meant. He also immediately moved to support him. Hisoka's strength is comparable to Ilmi's. However, he is a transformation type, and his physical enhancement is a little better. Like Ilmi, Hisoka is a highly skilled and experienced Nin user. The total amount of telekinesis is not particularly strong. He is also a weakling in a war of attrition. He is even more powerless to deal with Xiao Ming's Legion level ability. Later, when Hisoka fought against the leader of the Phantom Troop, he also lost to the opponent's group combat ability. Since his young master wants to run away, how can Xiao Ming not give in? Does he have to kill Ilmi? Don't look at the monk's face, look at the Buddha's face. Although Ilmi is not a good person in Xiao Ming's eyes, it doesn't matter if he kills him. But Xiao Ming looked up to Killua, although this guy was also a murderer. But his life energy was still pretty good. So for Killua's sake, Xiao Ming did not order the puppets and shadow clones to chase. To be honest, they couldn't catch up. But Xiao Ming was not idle either. He emptied his mana slot again and cast a bean-scattering soldier. Hisoka and Illumi, who met at the top of the tree, could see that a large group of puppets stood up under them. But none of them attacked them, but just watched them leave quietly. Alas, looking at the 2 people who left, Xiao Ming, who had successfully pretended to be cool, sighed helplessly. Why do I always encounter this kind of situation? I always encounter this kind of guy who can easily kill me in a single fight. It forces me to cheat. It's okay to fight with a 4th or 5th level guy. Xiaoming can also test his own melee ability. It was always this type of battle. Even if I improved, I put some points into group battles. There were so many puppets, and they still had a lot of mana in their bodies, so they could fight for a while. But there was no target to fight against. Could they catch all the candidates? It was impossible. So they had to use up their energy out of boredom. So Xiaoming controlled this group of puppets and did the radio gymnastics in middle school. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 484. Seeing 1 or 2,000 crooked puppets made of branches, doing radio gymnastics collectively there. The onlookers who were still immersed in shock, the examiners of the Hunter Association, from the president down, collectively burst out laughing. Are you a devil, kid? How can you do such a shocking thing? Netero was delighted to see the prey, and sent the other examiners who came to watch the fun back to do their own business. He took the initiative to rush into the puppet crowd. While attacking, he shouted, "Boy, hurry up! Let them attack me, hee, I will help you clean up the mess." While speaking, he had already dispersed 20 or 30 puppets, and turned them back into dead branches and fallen leaves on the ground, but more broken. Xiaoming had seen him a long time ago. The president gave Xiaoming a feeling that he was unfathomable. In the scanned map, his color was much darker than Zhangzhong's. However, it is not easy to say whether he has reached the level of S level. Maybe it is between A level and S level? Xiaoming just felt that he was particularly powerful. He had not yet faced the somewhat mysterious feeling of Zhang Shizu. In other reincarnation worlds or game secret realms, scanning the map is more conspicuous than the circle. Because this mental power skill is not for concealment. It is relatively easier to be discovered by mental power experts. Xiaoming's special training of the circle is more concealed. However, this is the hunter's secret realm, and the situation is completely reversed. Everyone is too familiar with telekinesis. Although the circle released by Xiaoming is very wretched, many experts can detect it. After all, it is the same energy system. It's just not easy to find the source. On the contrary, mental power scanning will be ignored by most telekinesis users, even the president is no exception. This is equivalent to a blind spot. After confirming that Netero is strong, and now it's a competition. Xiaoming doesn't have to be polite. He sent out almost all his strength. Of course, there is no need to use tricks like self-destruction. 3 heads and 6 arms, etc., can't be used this time. In addition to the more than 100 shadow clones that already exist. Dozens of orc girls, 64 king guards, more than a dozen aliens, and the mind beast transformer Zhanghong, appeared out of thin air. These powers that Xiaoming had not used in the battle against Ilmi just now, this time all of them were taken out. At the same time, the power of the king was also used. All of his own legions present received a certain combat power bonus. Xiaoming's character Miu Miu also received some reverse bonuses. However, Xiaoming could hardly feel their improvement in the puppet legion with the largest number. I don't know what happened. Is it really too rough? The summoned undead lacked the corresponding materials, and some of the subdued mind beasts had poor combat power, so they did not appear this time. But even if such a legion was dispatched, it still did not get an advantage from President Netero. The opponent even let it go. The strongest individual strength in Xiaoming's legion was Zhanghong and the orc girl team. They also became Netero's main target. The president did not kill them immediately, but tried to fight with them and feel their various abilities. During this time, he smashed a large number of puppets around him. This competition was much more intense than the one between Miu and Ilmi just now, but it didn't seem to be a battle. It could only be regarded as playing with the president for an hour or so. Netero found that this candidate named Mu should have used all his skills. Hin was good, and he had a lot of fun. So in return, this old man took the initiative to show his best skill, 100 styles of Guanyin. Behind him appeared a huge golden Guanyin statue with many hands. The Guanyin statue used powerful and fast palms to attack from all angles in all directions. If the palms touched, they would die. Even the palm wind could cause considerable damage. The surrounding puppets could not withstand the shockwave brought by the attack and were all shattered. Of course, there were still a few that escaped. The king's guards and shadow clones were also mostly killed, but the amazing thing was that the beast girl, the alien, and Zhang Hong were only injured but not killed. They were knocked to the ground one by one, and then taken back by Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming thought that this was the real power of the 100-style Guanyin. In fact, Netero's Guanyin didn't even use any real moves, just casually slapped the flies with his hands. Xiao Ming doesn't have the strength to use the really powerful moves now. Obviously, even if he doesn't summon the 100-style Guanyin, he can easily deal with Mutio. At this moment, he probably expressed a little gratitude to Mutio, thanking him for playing with him. More likely, he wanted to show off. This combat power is extremely strong, and the deterrent power is also full. But another thing is terrifying when you think about it. In Xiao Ming's army, most of those who were eliminated by the president can be easily reborn. If those injured but not dead beasts are completely eliminated, Xiao Ming must spend a certain amount of time and energy to restore, revive, them. Netero would carry out such selective elimination. Naturally it is not good luck, just happened to guess. He must have done it on purpose. This shows that he has seen through Xiao Ming's various abilities just by fighting for a short time. This vision is truly shocking. Hey, kid, what do you think of my abilities? The president came to Xiao Ming and asked with a smile. President, you are wise and powerful, and invincible. I admire you very much, Xiao Ming replied respectfully. Although it was the truth, it also seemed a bit of flattery. The old man with a childlike heart was very happy to hear it. Hee, you have a good eye, kid. Your telekinesis is very creative, not bad. In my opinion, some of them are not completely telekinesis, right? That's right, I also have some abilities other than telekinesis, and even if I have telekinesis, I practiced it blindly, which makes the president laugh. Hee, no problem. I think you are a good material. World peace will be handed over to you in the future. I want to take you as my apprentice, what do you think? Why does he say this so much like a liar? If Xiao Ming didn't know that the president was a real great man, he would be scared away by these words. Thank you for your kindness, President. But I am now an apprentice butler of the Zaldik family. I wonder if this will be a hindrance. What? Are the apprentice butlers of the Zaldik family so powerful now? Is Zeno a moron? Really, this? Hearing what Mu said, the president cursed Kilua's grandfather Zeno Zaldik for several minutes before he was satisfied. Boy, from today on, you are my disciple. Follow me, the old man, and learn well. The Zaldik family is blind. I will take you to Kukula Mountain someday and talk to them. Hee. Well, this is a big misunderstanding. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 485. Of course, the misunderstanding was quickly resolved. It just took Xiao Ming a lot of effort. Then, Netero, who was eager to recruit a disciple, took Mutio to find Ilmi and Hisoka. Although the young master was embarrassed by his trainee butler, he couldn't be considered to have really lost. In terms of strength, as long as Xiao Ming is not careful, he can easily be killed by a killer-type master like Ilmi. Of course, on the other hand, Xiao Ming's circle and scanning map are basically always on. A strong man like Ilmi can be seen from a long distance, so it is not easy to be attacked by surprise. If Xiaoming is invisible, Ilmi can't find him. Or even if he has arranged layers of defense, he can't attack Xiaoming. For the same reason, Xiaoming's burst attack power is insufficient, and it is difficult to really defeat Ilmi. In general, the strength of the two of them is about the same, and neither can do anything to the other. At this time, Xiaoming especially hopes that he can have a powerful mind beast like Zhang Zhong. Zhang Hong, the transformer, is still far behind. However, there are also several existences among the mind beasts that are very worth cultivating. Zhang Hong, the transformer with telekinesis, is one of them. Another is Xiao He, the chimeric alien ancestor queen, who was originally controlled by Xiaoming's own mental power. Xiaoming feels that he can actually guide Xiao He to develop his own telekinesis ability. Try to make Xiao He as self-sufficient as Zhang Hong. It has basically never happened in the hunter world that a mind beast can develop its own telekinesis. Zhang Hong was able to do it because he had his own soul activated by the fragment of the fire source. And that fragment of the fire source has been analyzed in Xiaoming's textbook for many years. Although it has not been completely analyzed successfully so far. However, Xiaoming gradually feels that he has begun to have the ability to give the mind beast a higher degree of freedom. Unlike ordinary autonomous mind beasts, what Xiaoming can give is almost an independent soul. However, this ability is not yet mature, so Xiaoming decided to polish it more and put it into use after it matures. If successful, not only Xiao He can do this. His 13 children can also do it. Other mind beasts also have a chance. While Xiaoming entered the sage state and thought seriously, Netero had already negotiated with Illumi. Mutio, you got 2 backers at once. Xiaoming was distracted and didn't hear what the specific deal was. But from now on, Mutio Yu officially became Netero's disciple. At the same time, he got a title similar to a guest official in the Zaldik family. The official title is security consultant. But he is no longer an apprentice butler, and the task of protecting Killua is terminated in advance. As for this hunter exam, it doesn't matter. It's good for Mutio Yu to pass the exam, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't pass the exam. The strength is there, and it doesn't affect everyone's decision. After the exam, Netero will arrange a training course for Mutio Yu. But now Mutio Yu has to continue to take the exam. Netero also returned to the airship. After a fight with Xiaoming's puppet army and a remote view of Netero's president, by Shiki Guanyin, Hisoka's murderous aura was almost consumed. Next, he and Illumi didn't make trouble everywhere. The exam was completed relatively normally. Of course, what should have happened still happened. Gon's target for the number plate was Hisoka, and he successfully stole Hisoka's number plate with a fishing rod while Hisoka was fighting the yellow bird that chased him in the original story. This time, because Hisoka rarely participated in the exam seriously, he was killed early. Hisoka admired Gon very much for being able to steal his number plate. He planned to wait for him to continue to improve his strength, so he did not chase him. Gon successfully qualified. Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio passed the test more easily because they learned telekinesis and their combat power increased greatly. Then the successful candidates went to the location of the last test by the Hunter Association's airship. There were a total of 11 people participating in the last test. In addition to the 9 candidates in the original story, there were 2 player characters who qualified, Mewtwo and Chinyu. According to the plot, Netero interviewed all the candidates one by one. Asked them why they wanted to be hunters, and who was the most outstanding among the other candidates, and who they least wanted to fight. Xiaoming's answer was, the original task required him to take the hunter exam, the most prominent ones were Killua and Gon, the ones he least wanted to fight were Hisoka and Illumi. Since the last battle, these 2 have been paying attention to him intentionally or unintentionally. They looked at him as if they were looking at a piece of fat meat. This made Xiaoming nervous all day long, and his heart was beating non-stop. After getting on the airship, he tried to stay away from these two people. With the scanning map, he could find the whereabouts of the two in advance, and they really couldn't find Xiao Ming. He avoided these two strong men, but he couldn't avoid others. The character named Tai Niu took the initiative to find Xiao Ming. "Brother, we are all players, can we exchange names? I am Deepwater Abyss of the Windflower Snow Moon Guild. Can we take care of each other in the last exam?" This person spoke directly. As a player with a guild, when they meet in the game, they usually communicate with others like this. It's a straightforward way to get to the point. They first show their names to each other and then decide what to do. Although it will expose yourself in advance, it is the safest way to do it. It can avoid many risks and make it easier to reach mutual cooperation or some kind of agreement. If you don't show your name, if you get cheated, many players will find it difficult to find a place through the guild. There are not so many unreasonable and crazy dudes. Unless you are very confident in your own strength and are particularly interested in showing off, you will not report your name in advance. If you are caught fishing, you can use it as a background board for yourself to show off. But if you catch a shark, you can only blame yourself for being unlucky. Of course, the fact that Deepwater Abyss said this to Xiao Ming shows that he didn't notice the battle between himself, Ilmi and President Netero at all. Then his real level is also very limited. Tai Niu is a character with a physical fitness of level 3 and can't use telekinesis. From him, Xiao Ming felt a little shadow of Taoism, but it was very weak. This is really strange. I am a player from a small guild. Xiao Ming only realized now that the name Magic Dragon Aotian Guild was too embarrassing. Xiao Ming couldn't really say it, so he had to change the subject. "My game name is Explorer, nice to meet you." As he spoke, he shook hands with the other party. "Explorer? This name is interesting. Do you know what the last exam is about?" Deepwater asked. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 486. Looking at Deepwater Abyss's expression and his life energy, Xiao Ming understood. He should know the content of the next exam. Now he probably wants to use this information to exchange some benefits with himself. I don't know, but I don't want to know. The charm of the game lies in the unknown. I have something else to do. Goodbye. After that, Xiao Ming walked away and didn't want to say anything more to him. Deepwater Abyss also understood. It seems that this is a lone player who doesn't know much about the rules of the industry. In online games, the best way is to cooperate, share information, and exchange benefits. In this way, both players can go further and avoid internal friction. Even if there are some situations like using power to suppress others, it is actually a normal phenomenon in the game. If player A can use power to oppress player B, then if A and B compete normally, A will generally win. From the perspective of players and guilds, this kind of early, not very fair transaction can actually save time and resources for both parties. If they fight hard, both sides will suffer a lot. Of course, as the oppressed party, the mood must be a bit uncomfortable. Even many players would choose to fight the strong party to the end, even if they would rather not have any benefits or suffer heavy losses. In the early online games, this kind of thing happened frequently. Sometimes it was written into a heroic epic. But later the situation gradually changed, and the powerful party also learned their lesson for the sake of interests. They will talk to you very politely like this Deepwater Abyss. There is no feeling of being particularly domineering. And they will also give quite good compensation, resulting in a happy ending. Sometimes they will even act cute maliciously. This method is still quite popular in the main game of Magic Planet. and it has also begun to spread to the secret realm. Of course, this kind of situation can only happen in things that do not involve much interests. Once the interests are too great, it will still cause a war between guilds. Deepwater Abyss felt that his performance was actually okay, and there was nothing rude about it. He was very puzzled by the explorer's reaction of walking away. Xiaoming was a little overreacting, in fact, he was too sensitive. His circle can discover some of Deepwater's inner thoughts. He knows that he wants to exchange interests with himself, but Deepwater thinks that he is the stronger party and wants to get more benefits. There is also a feeling of alms. This emotion is reflected in his life energy and is captured by Xiaoming. This caused Xiaoming to feel uncomfortable. A otaku like Xiaoming has a limited circle of life. There are not many people he meets in reality. And most of them are related to the reincarnation space, and most of these people appreciate Xiaoming. Even Mengen, who wanted to forcibly recruit Xiaoming into the military, did so because Xiaoming was valuable. He also valued him from the bottom of his heart. Such emotions, of course, would not cause much disgust to Xiaoming. Similarly, in the reincarnation space, you often encounter some plot characters that you can hardly meet in reality. Some very pure people. Let's not talk about positive characters like Li Xiaoyao. Even the villain Zerg and Martian aliens are also very pure. And Qing Long, that kind of figure makes people feel humble unconsciously. And for a little bit of benefit, those petty calculations between humans seem even more boring. This has led to Xiaoming's picky taste. Now he is more repulsive to Deepwater Abyss. First, the other party doesn't think much of Xiaoming. Second, the other party is thinking about how to get more benefits. Xiaoming is naturally too lazy to continue chatting with him. If he has that time, he might as well go to the master to practice telekinesis. So he found an excuse and left on his own. Deepwater Abyss, who stretched out his hand to keep him, only had time to call hey, and Xiaoming had already walked away. He was also a little confused, thinking, what's this guy's way? Is he sick? Am I that ugly? According to the information he learned, the next game will be a knockout match. President Netero of the Hunter Association will announce a match table. All candidates will fight one-on-one according to the table. But it's not the winner who upgrades, but the loser. Candidates can become hunters as long as they win a game. Losers have to fight other candidates. Only the candidate who keeps losing until the end will fail. In other words, there will only be one loser in this exam. Deepwater Abyss just wants to sell this information for some money. The information is valuable, which is also a consensus among the players. And he also knows that this batch of candidates are very strong. It is difficult for him to win a game by strength. So he wants to discuss with Xiaoming, if he meets, can he let himself play a game, and he can pay some price. Of course, this needs to be observed. If the opponent is not strong, or if he can't meet himself, there is no need to spend money. This is a normal transaction in the game circle, and there is nothing wrong with it. He just has a little greed for petty gains, and has no real malice. But Xiaoming just doesn't like his type. So no agreement was reached. The airship landed in a place like a luxury hotel, which is a base of the Hunter Association. 3 days later, it is the date when the last exam begins. Players can choose to temporarily save and exit, or directly advance the plot to 3 days later. Of course, if players want to make full use of these 3 days, they can explore the space. However, Deepwater Abyss was not strong enough to do anything in this place, so he fast-forwarded directly. Xiaoming was the same. He asked Netero for advice on the airship, but Netero asked him to pass the exam first. So Xiaoming did not delay. He also chose to fast forward. So the system coordinated a little, and the two entered the last exam together. And after the first battle between Xiaoja and Hanzhou ended, The second battle started between the two players. Looking at deep water abyss on the opposite side, Xiaoming seemed to understand, thought about it and asked, "Is this what you wanted to tell me on the airship?" Deep water abyss was a little embarrassed, nodded, yes. Then he took the fighting posture of a fighter. But at this time, he was not very confident in himself. He saw the battle between Hanzo and Xiaoja just now, and was shocked in his heart. Xiaoja's skills alone were not something he could fight. The Hanzo whose fighting power crushed Xiaoja was even more terrifying. And from the reactions of everyone, it was obvious that they all valued this player named Mewtwo. It seems that the eyes looking at me are full of pity. This is troublesome. I seem to have forgotten a rule among players. Solo players are either rookies or masters, and they should not be ignored. This player who calls himself an explorer seems to be a king. Should I learn from Xiaoja and be strong and unyielding? This is a question. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 487. Finally, Deep Water Abyss passed the exam and got the hunter license. However, like Xiaoja, he only learned about the details of the exam afterwards. Xiaoming took the initiative to admit defeat. He didn't mind helping out with this little thing. However, considering that the subsequent battle might expose some of his strength, Xiaoming didn't want other players to see it. So before admitting defeat, Xiaoming flashed behind Deep Water Abyss with a flash step and knocked him out with a palm. Although the character Shinyu has a physical fitness of level 3, the player Deep Water Abyss can't exert its power at all. He has no resistance in front of Xiaoming. Retribution in this life comes quickly. Not long after, Xiaoming was knocked out by Hisoka in the battle with Hisoka. Hisoka also admitted defeat. The unconscious Mewtwo, like Xiaoja and Shinyu, automatically won and obtained the hunter qualification. This is the situation at the time. Hisoka didn't want Mewtwo to create a lot of mind beasts to fight with him. The space in the examination room is limited. If there are thousands of puppets, the examination room will be filled up. What can I do? So he proposed not to use the beast of mind. The price is that no matter whether the battle is won or lost, Hisoka will admit defeat. He also misunderstood a little. The ground in this examination room is clean and there are not so many dead branches and leaves. Xiaoming can't use the bean-casting soldiers. However, if Xiaoming wants, he can indeed fill the examination room with other beasts of mind. In that case, Hisoka will also find it difficult to fight. After thinking about it, Xiaoming agreed to Hisoka's proposal. The two of them had a hand-to-hand fight. Since Xiaoming was not allowed to use the beast of mind, Hisoka did not use his special mind ability. He only relied on his body movements and skills to fight Xiaoming. Hisoka's speed and strength are still higher than Ilmi. He rushed to Xiaoming, but ran into 3 stone walls erected by Xiaoming with alchemy. A few punches smashed the stone wall, and 6 knives rushed to his face like wheels. Mewtwo has transformed into a 3-headed, 6-armed being chopped at him with Naga's 6-armed swordplay. The image of 3-headed, 6-armed people around him was extremely shocking. Can this still be played like this? Can my buddy's brain capacity still keep up? These 6 swords actually move forward and backward in a well-organized manner, without a single mess. This shows that this is a real swordplay, not just a random gesture by Mewtwo. The sword was transformed by Xiaoming using alchemy from a few pieces of floorboards. The quality of the sword itself can only be considered excellent. But Xiaoming attached the power of strengthening, and Hisoka didn't dare to take on such an attack with his body. He could only hold 2 strengthened playing cards in both hands to resist. Or he was fast and skilled, and 2 playing cards actually blocked the siege of 6 swords, and he still had the energy to throw out a few cards as darts to counter-attack Xiaoming. Xiaoming was not to be outdone, and he still had some mental strength to spare, so he used the sword control technique to manipulate more than a dozen flying swords to fight against 11 Suo's playing cards, flying up and down, stabbing or blocking, attacking or defending. The two soon fell into a war of attrition. 11 Suo was very fast, moving around quickly, looking for opportunities. Occasionally he rushed up and slashed a few moves with Xiaoming, and then quickly retreated, looking for another opportunity. If it were someone else, it would be easy to not keep up with the speed and be kite-fed. But Xiaoming was different. The three-headed and six-armed swordsmanship and the Naga swordsmanship had a common feature. There was almost no dead angle. Moreover, 11 Suo had been surrounded and chased by Xiaoming's flying swords, and he didn't always have the opportunity to launch a surprise attack. 11 Suo suffered from the lack of powerful attack skills and could not really break through the defense line composed of 6 swords and more than a dozen flying swords. Of course, Xiaoming's melee ability was relatively poor, and his experience in fighting enemies was not rich. 11 Suo was still able to find a gap occasionally and left several blood marks on Xiaoming with playing cards. But that's all. It can only cause Xiaoming some minor injuries. Xiaoming also knows healing skills, and he can recover as before with a casual treatment. Now Hisoka is in trouble. How can he fight? In his usual battles, he always uses stretchable love to assist. This mind ability is very useful. Hisoka can use it whether accelerating, decelerating, or turning. Of course, it is more effective against the enemy. If this trick is not used, Hisoka seems to be fighting with his arms tied. He can't even exert 50% of his strength. This is just right for fighting Xiaoming on equal terms. And Xiaoming's energy consumption is far greater than Hisoka. Normally, Xiaoming should lose in this attrition war. But we all know Xiaoming's energy is almost unlimited. If it drags on, he will definitely not lose. After more than 10 minutes of fighting, almost everyone can see this clearly. Xiaoming doesn't show any signs of fatigue. At the same time, although Xiaoming can't hit Hisoka, he uses alchemy to erect dozens of stone walls around himself. It blocked the vision between the two. Anyway, he had Yun with him, so he was not afraid of not seeing Hisoka. But Hisoka's Yun was not as useful as Xiaoming's. Seeing the wood come up with various tricks, Netero twisted his beard and laughed ho ho ho. The others also looked very solemn. I didn't expect that this wood was not a good person even without the beast. So many strange tricks. Only Illumi's face full of nails could not show any expression. At this point, Hisoka, who was powerless, should just admit defeat. But he was really unwilling to do so, in order to prevent the newcomer from being proud and complacent. He finally used the stretchable love. He used several layers of chewing gum to stick to the soles of his feet to accumulate enough power, and released it at the same time to bounce himself towards Xiaoming. At a speed that Xiaoming had no time to react, he crashed through the 4 stone walls. He broke through his sword defense circle and knocked him to the ground with one punch. Damn! I was careless. Xiaoming thought he was foolproof, so he didn't think of putting on a few mental shields for himself. Or even invisible. He wouldn't be knocked out by one blow. Xiaoming was indignant at first when he was kicked out of the secret realm by the system. But soon he smiled again. Because the system's reward came. Xiaoming got the reward of the template of the ability to read. This is very awesome. With the template of a certain ability to read, Xiaoming's character Miu Miu can use that ability to read. If you read 300 Tang poems, you can write poems even if you can't. As long as the player uses it frequently, he will have the opportunity to figure out the principles and feelings of it. In time, he may also master that ability to read. This is a treatment that the characters in the plot can't enjoy. Because Xiaoming fought against the 3 masters of Illumi, Netero, and Hisoka successively. He also beat 2 of them. It would be unreasonable if there is no decent reward for such an achievement. So the system gives 3 options to choose from. The primary templates of the special mind abilities of each of the 3 masters are listed and given to Xiaoming to choose. Netaro's 100-style Guanyin, Illumi's disguise, Hisoka's stretchable love. It's so difficult to choose. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 488. Among these abilities, the strongest one is probably the Master's 100-style Guanyin. When President Netaro used this move, it was really powerful and indestructible. So handsome. But what would his primary template look like? It might not be as powerful as Zhanghong. Even worse than other mind beasts. Besides, this thing will definitely consume a lot of mind power in the future. The mind power when using it doesn't matter, but such a strong ability, if you want to practice it, it will definitely consume a lot of the potential of mind power. Xiaoming can't bear to give it up, because these potentials will be used to develop more transformers in the future, or to simulate the abilities of other people. The eldest master Ilmi's disguise is very good, and even masters can't see the clues. However, Xiaoming knows the transformation technique in ninjutsu, and there is also an invisible uniform in the mind power. The ability of disguise is not very attractive to him. After thinking about it, only Hisoka's stretchable love is the most suitable for Xiaoming. This ability is like this. The user can use telekinesis to create one or more pieces of chewing gum that can be large, small, long or short. Chewing gum can be sticky or elastic. Its 2 ends can be stuck to different objects. If the gum is controlled to be sticky as a whole, the gum will pull the 2 ends together in the middle. If the gum is elastic, it will bounce the 2 ends outward. Multiple pieces of chewing gum can be used together, which can be said to be infinitely useful. This is a very practical ability, and it does not consume much telekinetic potential. The use depends entirely on personal performance. For example, Hisoka can control dozens of chewing gums at the same time. The time when Xiaoming was knocked out in the hunter exam was when he stuck several pieces of elastic chewing gum on the soleace of his feet. He accumulated huge elasticity, elastic potential energy, and concentrated it to make himself very fast. He knocked out Miu Miu with one punch, because he was merciful at the time, otherwise he would kill with one blow. Xiaoming saw these uses clearly with his circle, but he didn't understand what his ability was at the time, nor did he know what he was doing. Thinking about it afterwards, Hisoka's ability is really useful. Xiaoming can now think of many uses. Controlling multiple items at the same time is Xiaoming's strong point. Xiaoming has more telekinesis and can make more gum than Hisoka. Of course, limited to the primary template, the character of Wood can make up to 10 pieces of gum at the same time. But this is only for the characters in the secret realm. If the player has the ability to turn this ability into reality, he will definitely not be restricted by the template. Xiaoming is best at simulating other people's abilities. If he develops it himself, his creativity is actually limited. But learning is his strong point. For abilities that he likes very much, Xiaoming can also use the ability of private tutor to force learning. But this also requires Hisoka to be willing. Normal people definitely don't want others to learn their abilities. Is Hisoka a deep well ice guy? It's really hard to say. Maybe he would agree just because of the 2 uniforms. In addition, stretchable love can have many obscene uses, and Xiaoming, a senior otaku, thought of many of them at once. He longed for this ability too much. This kind of interest is the guarantee for Xiaoming to successfully copy this ability in the future. Just like copying the uniform beast from Brother Wen. Just when Xiaoming was excited to enter the hunter secret again. System prompt: sorry, your character is in a coma and will wake up in 4 hours according to calculations. Please log in again at that time. Check the time, it is now 11:13 a.m. on July 4th. Xiaoming is still quite excited about learning the ability he likes. He feels that he is not suitable for entering the main game. So he wants to see if he can go to Xiaoming or Xiaoming to play. His eyes turn to the consciousness transmission channel. Generally speaking, Xiaoming's channel is always open. The other one that is always open is Zhang Liang's channel. Xiaoming's channel has been intermittent, depending on whether there are cyborgs on missions. Xiaoming's channel is rare. It is opened much less frequently than. Today, I was lucky. Channel was not opened, but Xiaoming's channel was opened. Xiaoming was in a good mood, so he stood on it immediately. After a few seconds of trance, what came into view was tens of thousands of space fighters around. They were heading towards the foggy area of the Chu galaxy. Xiaoming was not possessed by a clone or a modified person. It was a remote-controlled fighter. The plane was not big, and a human could not fit in it. A small screen suddenly flashed in front of Xiaoming, and a somewhat gentle-looking officer appeared on the screen. "Hello, volunteer, I am Lieutenant Colonel Lu Wenbin of the New Han Kingdom Space Army and the Chu Galaxy Front Army. Thank you for taking the initiative to come to the war." Then he saluted Xiaoming solemnly. Xiaoming returned the salute unconsciously in his mind. "I will coordinate your actions from now on. Please obey my command. I will now inform you of the mission details." This conversation was completely one-sided. Xiaoming found a channel for the conversation, but it was temporarily blocked and he could only listen to the lieutenant colonel finish his words. Of course, the details would not be revealed too much to the volunteer soldiers. And this video should have been recorded in advance. Only then can it be played for each new volunteer when he comes. Simply put, the Space Army is going to attack somewhere on the edge of the Zerg fog zone. About 20,000 unmanned fighters were dispatched. No large warships were dispatched. This is obviously a one-way battle. Anyway, they are all drones and there is no need to come back. The goal is also simple. As long as it is not a human fighter, you can attack it. In fact, it is to attack the Zerg. It is said that as long as the strength of this attack is strong enough, it will cause great losses to the Zerg. This makes Xiaoming very suspicious. How can such a small force cause great losses to the Zerg? You must be kidding. Most of the drones are controlled by intelligent programs, but the consciousness transmission channels of some drones are always open. People with permission can volunteer to participate in the war. After the war begins, if the drone operated by the volunteer is destroyed, the background system will assign another one to him. If it is destroyed 3 times in a row, the background will no longer assign drones to this volunteer. It is not because his skills are too bad, but because continuous destruction will cause different degrees of damage to the volunteer's mental state. Therefore, after being destroyed 3 times, the volunteers must take a break for at least half an hour, and then they can connect again if they feel there is no problem. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 489. Most of the people who participated in this kind of mission were soldiers or thugs of major forces. Otherwise, the confidentiality authority was not enough. Xiaoming's situation was rare. Operating drones in combat is safe and can earn merits, so why not do it? The merits of this kind of battle are generally calculated according to the number and quality of Zerg killed by volunteers. When accumulated to a certain level, they will be rewarded. However, it is relatively difficult to distribute rewards to anonymous volunteers like Xiaoming. But there are several payment methods to choose from. The military said that it would respect the privacy of volunteers. It would not actively spy on the personal information of anonymous volunteers. However, Xiaoming felt that this could not be fully believed. If you do not perform well, the military will definitely respect your privacy. Because they are too lazy to pay attention to you. If the volunteers show excellent combat talent, Xiaoming does not believe that the military will not investigate. Of course, Xiaoming does not have to worry about this matter for the time being. He still has a backstage and a way out. As the drone army gradually approached the sheltered area, Xiaoming suddenly had a strange feeling, and it became more and more obvious. Suddenly, it dawned on him. No way. The direction of this drone army was actually heading straight for his other body, the king of insects. It turned out that Green Xiaoming had been active on the periphery of the sheltered zone, not very far from the edge. No wonder it was said that if the attack was successful, it would cause great losses to the Zerg. Isn't it? Destroying himself means destroying a new master of the Zerg. Of course it is a huge loss. As for why the new Han Space Army knew about the existence of the King of Insects, Xiaoming did not intend to delve into it. There are too many possibilities. The Zerg and the Space Army have been fighting for so long, and it is not surprising that the new Han Kingdom can get some intelligence. Fortunately, I discovered it early. Otherwise, it would be miserable. Green Xiaoming looked around at the Zerg army around him, and there were only a few hundred of them. It was very difficult to fight against 20,000 drones. Even if he could win, it would probably be a miserable victory. He only had such a small fortune, and he was absolutely reluctant to lose it. So the King of Insects turned around and fled to the interior of the galaxy with the Zerg army without saying a word. With the ability of the drone, it is definitely impossible to go deep into the sheltered area. At most, it can fight for a period of time in the outer fog that is not very thick. As long as his troops can go deep into the hinterland, the Zerg King will be safe. At the same time, the Zerg King changed the shape of the scanning map, stretched it into a long strip, and extended it to the interior of the Chu galaxy like an arrow to explore. This distance can be stretched very long. Then activate the wormhole skill and jump to the end of the scanning map range. Each time can save the troops several hours of flight time. After jumping 4 or 5 times, Xiaoming felt that it should be enough. At this time, the drone group of the new Han Kingdom has not entered the sheltered area. Of course, the subsequent battle was inconclusive. After the drone entered the Zerg territory, it did not find the set target at all. I don't know how the upper echelons of the military reacted. This batch of new drones has undergone certain technical modifications and is capable of wandering in the Zerg fog for a long time. However, the maximum speed of the drone is almost the same as that of the Zerg army. Even if they know the direction of the Zerg King's escape, they can't catch up. Besides, they didn't know it at all. Yin Xiaoming had left the drone long ago and went back to play games. But he left Huang Xiaoming here to pretend for a while. After not encountering any enemies, he left in boredom. It was also the luck of the Insect King to be able to escape by such a coincidence. Of course, even if Xiaoming had not been logged in this time and the humans' large-scale attack plan had not been discovered, the Insect King would not have died in the battle. The Insect King's scanning map is quite vast. The drone army can be discovered very early in advance, and it is still in time to escape at that time. But in a hurry, it is likely to lose some troops. It will definitely not be as easy as this time. Misfortune is the source of blessing, and blessing is the source of misfortune. While going deep into the Zerg territory and avoiding the new Han Kingdom Space Army, Green Xiaoming finally encountered the first Zerg Queen. This thing is because Xiaoming is a human who has taken over a body and lacks many Zerg instincts. When leaving the birthplace, Xiaoming did not distinguish the direction, and stupidly flew directly in one direction. I didn't take it seriously at the time. In fact, if he continued to fly like this, he would take his troops out of the shelter in an oblique direction. Even the queens who were not affiliated with the Overlord knew instinctively that they should try to migrate inward. Many high-level combat Zergs also understood this. Of course, they could only migrate to the central area. Further inland was the territory of the overlords. The density of Zerg overlords in the inner area was relatively high, and there was basically not much space for other Zergs. Even if there was open space, it was not enough to support the survival and development of a queen colony. In fact, the middle was the most suitable place for the new overlord to build a nest. Of course, not all overlords would settle in the inner area. External defense must still be there. Therefore, the Zerg overlords expanded from the center to the outside in a mesh structure. The further out, the looser it looked. Looking at this fourth-level high-level queen from a distance, her shape was actually very similar to a maggot, about 10 meters long and 3 meters wide. The color of the epidermis was brown-red. But it is very soft, unlike other Zerg with hard exoskeleton. There is a small meteorite colony in this area. This queen settled here. There are hundreds of Zergs of various levels 1-3 guarding around. The highest level is the Flying Dragon, and there are no powerful troops. It seems that it is also very pitiful. In fact, Xiaoming was busy running away, and did not notice the queen lurking in the meteorite at first. It was she who first sent a spiritual call to Xiaoming, actively requesting attachment. The general meaning is this: you are finally here, the new lord, I am looking forward to your arrival. Please accept my loyalty. With both sides willing, Xiaoming easily subdued this queen. In his heart, he named her Queen 001. Then she despised him. Not because of this uncreative name, but because Xiaoming, a dignified lord, did not learn spiritual kingdom. This must have skill for lords. For lords, the importance of this skill is equivalent to Zerg subjugation, which is one level higher than scanning the map. Wormhole is second. As for Spirit Shield, normal lords will not learn it at all. As the name implies, the spirit realm allows the overlord to integrate the spirits of the Zerg he has conquered. This allows the overlord to command the Zerg army with ease. At the same time, the Zerg army can also spread out and spread into a huge space, expanding the range of the map scanned countless times. Almost all Zerg commanders have this skill. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 490. Again, the names of the mental power skills and the names of the Zerg troops were all chosen by Xiaoming himself. Because these are all nameless. Zergs that use mental power to communicate do not use language or text to communicate, so they do not need to do such a troublesome thing as naming. Xiaoming does not have the ability of spiritual kingdom yet, but there is Queen 001. Xiaoming does not need to spend a lot of effort to run to the spiritual power ocean to find it. Just learn it directly from the queen. This skill is very different from the highly technical skills of Wormhole. The direction of specialization is different. Wormhole is quite difficult to learn. Level 6 mental power is the minimum limit for learning. The spiritual kingdom can even learn the queen of level 4 mental power. For the master of level 6 mental power, learning is a natural process. Within a few hours, Xiaoming easily mastered it. Queen 001 and her family automatically belonged to the Zerg king. After collectively conquering, they were integrated together to establish a huge spiritual kingdom. A major feature of this skill is that all the Zergs under Xiaoming can become a node. With the help of the mental power of the node Zerg, Xiaoming can activate some of his own mental power skills. The most common and most important one is Scan Map. The mental power of the Zerg king can be spread out through the nodes. As long as the nodes are distributed widely enough, Xiaoming's scanning range of the map will be large enough. However, these Zergs are not Xiaoming's body after all. The map scanned by them is not as clear as the one scanned by Xiaoming himself. The map of a single Zerg will not be very large, and its mental power is not much. But when countless Zergs are unified, the range they can see is extremely wide. Xiaoming can also use the advanced node Zerg to play skills such as Zerg Conquest and Spirit Shield. Even wormholes. After the spiritual kingdom, Xiaoming listened to the queen bug crying and complaining in the mental communication for a long time. She was born not long ago, and she was just a little lowly queen bug in the Zerg. Unable to find a good place to build a nest, her life was very miserable. Many times she didn't have enough food. Today, she met a powerful overlord, and finally found a backbone. She vented all the grievances she had been feeling. Fortunately, she met Xiaoming. If she had met another Zerg overlord, he would probably have ignored this weak queen because he looked down on her. She had encountered this kind of thing 2 or 3 times. Xiaoming comforted her heart while studying the characteristics of the Zerg. Normal Zerg can directly replenish pure energy through the Zerg mist. But this can only maintain basic survival. If you want to continue to grow, you have to eat. Ordinary combat Zerg generally eat the corpses of other creatures. If there is no food, they will hibernate. There is also an engineering Zerg, the earthworm, also known as the meatworm. They can eat all kinds of rocks and then make themselves fat. The earthworm cannot fly and crawls very slowly. After eating into a fat pig, it can basically not crawl anymore. It can only rely on the tentacles of the jellyfish to carry it. The queen specializes in this kind of earthworm as food. It absorbs the essence of nutrition and produces various types of insect eggs. But the territory found by No-001 is really not very good. The meteorite group is too small, and the resources it can provide are very limited. It is not enough for the queen to build a large-scale construction. So the queen plans to eat up the meteorite group here, burst some troops, and then look for a larger meteorite group. If you don't produce some Zerg troops to protect yourself, you may not be safe in the sheltered area. Especially for the queen, who can't fly and has no combat power. In addition to the Zerg, there are a large number of space creatures in the sheltered area, some of which are planktonic space creatures that live by absorbing radiation energy. There are also carnivorous space creatures that feed on planktonic space creatures. It's like in the sea, big fish eat small fish, and small fish eat shrimp. It's similar in space, but the distribution of organisms is more sparse. The size of organisms is generally not large. And almost all of them are dormant. If there is no food, they will hide, and if there is food, they will become active. After a full meal, they will continue to hide. And after a long period of evolution, there are even space creatures that can directly absorb energy from the Zerg mist. Their population is slowly expanding. This change makes the Zerg masters very happy. In the future, this may become another source of food and a source of new genes. Some people may have questions, other creatures come to grab food and share the Zerg fog. Shouldn't the Zerg reject this behavior? But in fact, it really won't. An important reason is that the fog area is too large, and the Zerg itself can't eat all the energy in the fog. It's actually quite good to have other creatures to help concentrate. Or it is precisely because of the continuous accumulation of fog energy and the continuous expansion of the fog area that other species that feed on it will be produced. This is the normal law of nature. The physical attributes of Queen 001 are only level 1, the spiritual attributes have reached the intermediate level of level 4. However, the abilities of the Queen are basically related to reproduction, such as gene regulation. Xiaoming is a little strange. The queens of insects such as ants and bees also lay eggs, and they will produce several different types of eggs. Can this also be regarded as a special ability? However, No-001 responded that the eggs laid by the Zerg queen cannot be compared with those laid by lower creatures such as ants and bees. The complexity of the two is very different. So laying eggs is not a special ability, but gene regulation of Zerg offspring is an advanced ability that can only be learned from the spiritual power ocean. Of course, as a queen, she has special care. This ability was fed to her by the spiritual power ocean when she was born. A large amount of genetic information related to Zerg troops was obtained from the spiritual sea. Without this ability, she can only give birth to some extremely low-level troops, and even flying dragons cannot be produced. And this ability can still be updated in the future. Due to her own conditions, the Queen cannot regulate the genes of some advanced Zerg troops. After she upgrades, she can upgrade this ability and get more genetic information. I never thought that Green Xiaoming could also learn the ability of gene regulation. However, if you think about it carefully, it seems reasonable. The Zerg King has the function of laying eggs, and he already knows how to regulate genes. But most of the time, Xiaoming himself does not know how to regulate. Learning the ability of gene regulation from the Queen is actually expanding his own gene pool. At the same time, he also obtained the genetic codes of some Zerg troops that he does not have. In addition, Xiaoming's genetic information obtained in the Starship Troopers world and even the genetic information of the Zerg can be integrated into it. Build a larger gene bank.